Hello everybody, thank you for being here. I am Chef Bravo for Bravo Plant-Based Channel and BravoPB.com. Thank you for watching. Today's demonstration is going to be on dry saute versus wet saute. When do you use one or the other? How it helps you. We're going to set up a couple of different dishes. So this is slash dry and wet saute slash sweet potatoes, because today we served you guys some sweet potatoes and there were some leftovers, so we're going to use that whole concept of dry wet saute to change leftovers. Okay, I don't know about you guys, everybody has a family member who will not eat leftovers, okay, and everybody else has a family member who can eat leftovers every day of his life, right? So here's a couple ideas on how to make leftovers look interesting, look like a whole new dish. You know, so I'm just trying to kill multiple birds with one stone here for you. Sound good? Yeah. Okay. Dry saute versus wet saute. If you look up the definition of sauteing, almost word for word, you know, in the dictionary, you'll see that it says to cook something in a little bit of hot fat. Hot fat meaning olive oil, butter, lard, duck fat, shortening, you know, whatever your fat of choice might be. So the idea is that you take a pot or pan, you preheat it, okay? This is the part where the olive oil goes in, okay? And then you have to wait for it to get nice and hot, so that then you add your onions, garlic, mushrooms, vegetables, or if you're searing a piece of this or that, that's when it goes. You don't do that when the pan and the quote-unquote the oil or the fat is still cold. You have to wait for it to be nice and warm, okay? But now that we are all brainwashed thanks to Dr. Bill Hammer, okay, we're gonna do exactly that, minus the little bit of hot fat. Sound good? Okay. So the process is still the same. We need a stove. Ding. We need a pan or a pot. Ding. Okay. And we need to wait for it to get hot. Okay. The main difference as to when I decide to do either wet or dry saute has to do with color. That'll be the determining factor 99% of the time. Okay. So if I have something that is white in color, okay, wet saute, because I don't want to brown it at all. So that means white onions, yellow onions, leeks, fennel, celery root, turnips, parsnips, okay? So any sort of white vegetables, any white combination of stuff, cauliflower, okay? Automatically wet saute, because I want to keep all of that nice and white. Anything else, slash anything that has color, dry saute, because I want to caramelize the natural sugars in them, okay? So as you see here, I have some diced red bell peppers and some onions, okay? So neither one of these is white, so I'd like to get some nice color going into them. Sound good? Okay. So that'll take care of 99% of the time when you decide dry versus wet saute, okay? If it has color, dry saute. If it doesn't have color, you know, if it's white, then you do a wet saute, okay? You put your hand over the top of the pan, and you want to feel a nice radiating heat, sort of like if you've ever grilled, okay? You don't turn on the grill and put something on it right away. You want that grill nice and hot. Same thing, okay? Don't touch the pot or the pan, okay? Just feel the radiating heat. Sound good? Everybody follow me so far? Okay. All right. Ideally, when you drop your items here, you should hear an instant sizzle, that kind of thing. So let's see if we did this right. Okay? All right. You should hear some of that, and maybe some of that crackling. Okay. All right. To this, we'll get to the jalapeno here in a second. To it, I'm also going to add a little bit of pineapple. Okay. And what does that sound like? Sizzle, which reminds you of frying. You know, you're sauteing in a fried pan kind of a thing. So it looks exactly the same. It sounds exactly the same, okay? And you move it around exactly the same, except we don't do the little bit of hot fat, okay? That's the only difference. And as I get this going, here's what's gonna happen. You see the steam is starting to come up, okay? That is the water that's inside those items, okay? The natural water inside the pineapple, the onions, and the peppers, okay? That's what's evaporating, okay? So as that happens, it's sort of like when we go running and we start sweating, that's our body's natural reaction to cool us down. That's exactly what's happening. As the veggies sweat, it cools them down a little bit, okay? And then they stay in contact with a hot pot or pan, okay? It continues to heat them up. That dance between, you know, we're sweating to cool ourselves down to, you know, we are in a very hot environment, it gives you a long enough window to get a nice browning going, okay? Which is what we're after. Yes?
Medium heat or high heat?
This is like a medium high, okay? I could do this at a complete high heat, but as I am trying to entertain you all and explaining it, I'm trying to slow it down just a little bit. But I could do this, you know, if I was just me, really quick on high heat, completely. Okay, and I will show you what this looks like in just a sec. Move this over. Okay, so this is what we're chasing right here. That, let me move it over a little bit more. That nice golden brown effect that I have on the pan here.
Oh, the smell is killing me.
Yeah. I know, I can't wait
Okay. All right. So that's sort of the pretty simple idea, okay? I'm just caramelizing the natural sugars within those food items. And I'm also evaporating the natural water, okay? So I am browning the sugar and I'm concentrating the flavor through evaporation, okay? That's the whole theory behind dry sauteing, okay? Now, a lot of it ends up at the bottom of the pan, okay? And sometimes you think, God, it'd be really nice to make sure I get all of that flavor, okay? Not just on the veggies, but also on the pan. So you can also do what's called a deglazing, okay? There's a traditional term for the sort of browned up pieces that get stuck to the bottom of the pan. You add a little bit of liquid, okay? In this case, I'm gonna add a little bit of pineapple juice, which kind of fits the theme because I have some pineapple in here, okay? And now all of that glaze at the bottom of that pan comes off, okay?
Wow.
Can you guys see that? Can you guys see it over here? Okay. So I make sure to get all of those natural sugars.
What other kind of
I could use some vegetable broth in here as well. I could use some vinegars, okay? I could use other types of juices, okay? I chose pineapple juice in this case because it just sort of fits because I have pineapples in here. If these were potatoes maybe instead of the pineapple, a little bit of vegetable broth, okay? Maybe if it's mushrooms, I do a little bit of vinegar, like either a balsamic or a red wine vinegar, okay? Yes?
I've tried this because I saw it on their cooking class a few times. Mine goes back a lot, and I'm thinking, is my oven hot? Am I not moving?
So the question is, you know, I've tried this before and my food goes black. The very first thing I would look at would be your pan. Your pan is probably the issue. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna go ahead and finish this with some jalapenos. Okay. Now I heard a little bit of rumbling somewhere there, and my guess is that people are saying, "Whoa, that was a lot of jalapenos. That's gonna be way too high." Okay. Now I'm gonna turn this off. That was quite a bit of jalapenos, yes. But I have a good amount of pineapple in there, so I'm doing sort of sweet and spicy kind of a thing going on. Okay. And just in case the jalapenos happen to be pretty, strong, I know that I was doing all of this because, again, we mentioned the fact that we had some leftover sweet potatoes, okay? So in this case, the yellow sweet potatoes. So I now have more sweet to go along with my hot, okay? And there's a little bit of tanginess from the pineapple, okay? So to this, I would add, I could have easily added some herbs, cilantro, tarragon would have been really nice on here, some basil, okay? I'm trying to keep it simple, so not to do too much all at once. So we're using leftovers. Ideally, having sweet potatoes as leftovers in your fridge is a great thing to do, great thing to have. Okay, I just showed you the whole dry saute technique thing. All right, and I'm also bouncing simple flavors off each other. I got the sweet and the spicy theme going on. Okay, all fairly simple, nothing sort of too complicated. A little bit of herbs would just be like a cherry on top type of thing.
You didn't heat up the sweet potatoes, they're kind of cold.
You could have had them, heated up. They were room temp. Okay, so these were like the leftovers from a couple hours ago. So let's say those were leftovers from lunch the day before. Now for dinner time, I would heat them up a little bit. I would not want this nice sort of pineapple jalapeno saute on top of cold sweet potatoes. I would at least get them to room temp. Okay, and whether you do that through sticking them in the oven or just a quick minute and a half in the microwave, which would be the easiest thing, that's what I would do. All right, sound good? All right.
It's torture.
And you're having that for dinner tonight?
Somebody will. A lot of times what I make here is actually my lunch, because normally kitchen staff takes lunch at 2, but I'm here on Fridays with you. So a lot of time something from here is what I eat.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now here is wet saute. Okay. Wet saute starts cold, not hot. Okay. That is a big difference. If you start out hot, then you're likely to get browning. Okay. So you don't want that. All right. So I am going to just do a little bit of my yellow onion here.
I have a little quick question.
Yes.
If you're going to put the combination that you put together and you're doing it in a dry saute pan, do you always use red onion then? Instead of a white or yellow one?
Ideally, yeah.
Okay.
But there's enough color in my jalapenos and the red bell peppers and the pineapple to where if I was adding yellow onion instead of red, it'd still be okay. Yeah, because yellow and white onions still have a good amount of sugar. Okay, almost the same amount as red. Okay, so they will brown up nicely. Okay. So that color difference thing was coming more from the pepper, from the peppers rather than the onion itself. Okay. Okay. All right, just a quick dice. All right, so that goes in cold. Okay. I also have here a combination of celery root, leeks, and turnips. So I'm going to add a little bit of all of that in there. And now, if I just turn this on, even though it's cold, they will eventually brown up, okay? Because there's nothing to keep them from browning, okay? A little bit of water that will come out of the vegetables here will only help me so long, okay? So to make sure that I don't do any browning, I start with a little bit of vegetable broth, okay? And now same thing, medium high or even high heat if you're not entertaining a room full of people, okay? And now at this point, the objective here is to simply get your vegetables cooked through, all the way through without any browning, okay? That's all it is. So last week I ended up making a cauliflower sort of puree. I forget exactly what it was. With fennel, right? And so that was kind of the thing. So if you're making a potato leek soup, this would be sort of the way, or a cauliflower puree, or that, make that, for lunch we serve that fennel and pea soup, okay? That starts out with white vegetables sort of in this area, okay? So that once I add the peas, I have that nice green color, okay? But if I start out with those white vegetables and they're too browned up, then I add the green in there from the peas and it's the sort of darkish green off color, okay? Yes?
What's the difference between wet saute as far as texture and that goes and just steaming the vegetables? The wet sautés?
Not a whole lot of difference actually. That's a great question. The thing about sauteing or steaming, however, is that you're going to end up with a pretty dry product. Okay, versus here, if I, do it right, and if my vision of my end result, how I'm going to serve this, if I want a little bit of sauce / liquid broth in there because I want a little bit of wetness to the dish, then this is how it goes. If you simply steam them, they'll be nice and white, they'll be nice and cooked soft, but you won't have any liquid in there to give you moisture. Okay, so that's really the only difference. And as you can all see, these are all staying nice and white. Now, if for some reason you are doing a wet saute and you suddenly, because of the kids, the spouse, the phone, whatever, something else is going on in the house, and you take care of that, the dog made it, and you suddenly hear that thing going, okay, that means you're out of liquid in the pan and you're now working on browning, okay, because that's what that is. It's the contact between a hot pan and the food, and it's that sort of searing kind of thing, okay? So if you're trying to do a wet saute, the second you hear any sound, okay, that means you're dry. You need to make a choice, okay? That make sense? Okay. All right. There's a stool right there, Abby, if you want to.
Thanks.
All right, I got to kill about a minute, so somebody's got to come up with a good question. Go ahead.
Well, I've heard that to bring the aroma out of herbs, you need to saute them. Is that true?
No. You want to apply a little bit of heat. So yes and no. What you want to do is, and I'm actually going to show you because I have some chives here with me. What you want to do is add them to the sauteing process at the last second, the last minute. At the end. Those are more spices kind of a thing.
Oh,
So-
I'm sorry, spices.
yeah. Those you want at the beginning of the cooking process because they need about 20 minutes to release the flavor and the aroma out. But if it's fresh, you do them, that's the last thing you do. Kind of a thing, as you will see in just a second. Yeah.
So if you took care of the cat and dog or whatever, and sizzling, how do you prepare that?
Right here. Make sure you always have a little bit of broth. Okay, and you go, oh, okay, safe. Okay. And then you tell the dog, bad dog. Did you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna say that when you made the other dish, and you were saying what you put on it, you make those amazing mushrooms, that I think change.
The mushrooms here in the salad bar?
Could you just go through what you do for that?
We don't saute those. Those actually go, we bake them in the oven. So we slice them, and then they go in the oven, 350 degrees. Naked? Yeah. About 15-ish minutes. Okay. That liquid that you see them sort of sitting, marinating in, that's their own liquid. That's their own natural water. That's, you know, we evaporate a good amount of it, but not all of it.
How many
Yeah.
minutes?
About 15-ish minutes.
I just think people that are transitioning, if I hear like meat eaters, that is such a game changer for on the dishes.
Yeah. Okay.
What
So,
about the broth or the liquid that comes out of the mushrooms? Can you use that for a broth?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For broth, for soup.
You wouldn't put it in the fridge sitting in the liquid. You would drain it because it would probably go faster. It would probably
Mhm.
last longer.
Okay.
Thanks.
My vegetables are perfectly cooked. They are nice and white. I am dry here. Okay. So I need to make my choice now. Okay. Either turn the pot off. Okay. Or I would add a little bit more liquid, which is not necessarily what I want to do. So at this point, while everything is still hot, I'm going to go ahead and add my chives to it. Sort of last thing I do, in order for their flavor to sort of come up, okay? And then it gets served right away. If you cook fresh herbs for too long, they disappear, okay? With the exception of rosemary. Rosemary you can cook for quite a while and it's there. You know it, okay? But for just about everything else, you want to add at the last moment, okay? And here's what's cool about it. Those bright green specks of chives show off really well because they're bouncing off of something that's nice and white. Okay, everybody see that? Okay. All right. But now I have some leftover orange sweet potatoes, which a lot of times they're called yams here in the U.S. And these, they were steamed just like the other ones, but these I put back in the oven so I give more of a roasted look to them, okay? And now to it, I'm going to add a little bit of this nice white sauté veggies. And again, their whiteness, so if you look them in the pan, they're like, oh, they're nice and white and they got some, you know, chives on there. They're pretty, you know, but they don't look like super delicious, okay? But you put them right next to something else that has a bunch more color and has, you know, that sort of roasted look, suddenly they look that much more appealing, okay?
Contrast.
There we go. And maybe, I'll do maybe a couple of little chive there, see at the end, okay?
Very nice.
Very simple, okay? Nothing overly ordinary, okay? Just like we did this sort of sweet and spicy thing here, this is sort of a sweet and savory kind of thing going on here, okay? With that hint of very subtle onion, which is the chives, okay? And this is how you make some leftovers look totally different, okay? For that picky eater in the house, all right? So that is the difference of wet and dry saute, how you would use or when you would use one versus the other, okay? And in the end, it's really all a matter of, you know, what do I want it to look like when I serve it, kind of a thing. A lot of times, that's where a lot of people sort of fall, you know, start to fall apart because they have all the ingredients, but they don't take those 5 seconds to just sort of picture, you know, what do I want it to look like when I plate it, when I serve it, okay? A lot of times if you take those 5 seconds and you have the sort of picture. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to necessarily hit the target 100%, okay? But if you have an idea, then you go, okay, this guy right here. I'm gonna serve these sweet potatoes. I'm just gonna heat them up because I want them nice and, you know, soft and plain. But now I want something colorful and something, you know, with a good amount of flavor in there. And then you start thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this sort of saute thing over the top. And you go, okay, my sweet potatoes are whitish, okay, the yellow sweet potatoes. Now I want as much color on this as I can. Then you start going, okay, that means I need to dry saute this, and I need to evaporate as much water out of them, out of the veggies as possible, and get as much caramelization as possible, okay? And it sort of gives you a roadmap, okay? It's sort of like, if you know where you're going, you know which route to take, okay? But if you just say, well, I'm just gonna go for a drive, do I turn right? Do I turn left? Right? That sort of thing. Make sense? Okay. Question again?
Deglazing.
Oh, deglazing, right. So that's a term, you know, sort of like a French cuisine kind of thing. The glaze is everything that's sort of seared, stuck on the pan. So when you deglaze, you're taking that glaze and taking it back, okay? That's how you add liquid so that it comes off the pan. So the glaze doesn't go to the dishwasher. It stays with you in your dish. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Again, Chef Bravo here for Bravo Plant-Based Channel and BravoPB.com. Thank you.